Let's see, in the screening room. Now we got Joe from Virginia, we got Cassidy from Colorado, and we have A Radio from Pennsylvania. Looks like A Radio is first in line. Message from the Holy Spirit about aliens.
Okay.
You want to tackle that one?
Yeah, let's have some fun.
Yeah. A Radio, you are on with Bree and Jim. Said you got
Hi.
some.
Thanks for having me.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. All right.
Okay.
You said you had some information, message from the Holy Spirit about aliens. We'd love to hear about it.
Yes. So I have an 11-page letter that I wrote in regards to a quote-unquote secret document signed by Anunnaki, Pope Benedetto XVI, and Ameet Stanford, who is a quote-unquote human-alien hybrid.
Okay.
Now,
and how do you know that these that this document exists, and how do you know the signatures are real?
Because I backtracked it and traced it due to where it is located, and it is cross-checkable with whatever is written in religions and, you know, the media and all of that.
But so you've had a handwriting analyst analyze these signatures, because you mentioned two fairly famous people who have signed quite a few documents. It should be fairly easy to validate that the signatures are real.
Yeah, and on the website that it comes from, which I don't think you may have heard of it, it's called, I can barely pronounce it, bibliotechlafields.net. But when you go back and it links all of the documents that each person has ever presented. And it was important because Benedetto is one of the only popes who have acknowledged the wrongdoings of churches and the Vatican themselves, which is why he was made to step down when he was in papacy.
Benedetto, you mean Benedict the 16th?
Yep.
Okay. And so, but who is the handwriting expert that validated that this signature was his?
It isn't verified, but it provides everything that he's signed when you go back to it.
Yeah, so this is the problem with signatures is that people can fake them, and a handwriting expert should be able to detect most of the ways that these were faked. So just because you have a signature doesn't mean the signature is real. And if the letter just has stuff that is easily verifiable from common newspaper records and other things, then that doesn't go to prove necessarily anything, because anybody can read those sources and put together a story from them however they want to.
And I think that a lot of this linking with Benedict the 16th and aliens comes from that. It's been a couple of years back. There was the astronomer for the Vatican that said that maybe alien life existed, and the Pope, supports his astronomer. Then now you have a Pope that's saying that alien life might exist, and from there, this is not a far leap for things to kind of tumble forward and to become this narrative that the Pope believes in, or even is associated with, or protecting knowledge about aliens. Right. But I don't see anything substantial. This letter sounds intriguing. I don't know if it'd be compelling, but
yeah. And honestly, I don't really care that Pope Benedict or any Pope signed anything, because I don't think they have any special connection to anything other than possibly their own delusions, depending on how strong a believer they are. Because I don't accept the claim that that God exists. So I see no reason to accept that Benedict is anything more than a guy who runs around the Vatican in fancy clothes that he could probably sell for a pretty penny to go feed some poor. So I don't know why we care that he signed anything, or that he thinks or doesn't think aliens exist. He's certainly not a cosmologist. He's not a biologist. He's not a, he doesn't study any of this stuff. So I don't know why we care what he thinks.
So A Radio, are you Catholic? Is that why you're putting stock in?
No.
Okay.
So
do you trust what the Pope would say?
Well, this isn't about religion. This is what the people who rule our planet have turned religion into, which is the complete opposite of what it's meant to be, which is spirituality.
So the people that rule our planet, is this like an Illuminati like idea?
Yes.
Okay. So
yes, essentially.
What evidence do we have for the Illuminati?
They put their symbolism everywhere. They flaunt it into public eyes because they're proud of the horrible things they do, which there is plenty of proof of. And it's important to note that the Vatican owns a space telescope that they named Lucifer. That is their telescope.
Why would the Vatican name anything, much less a space telescope, Lucifer? That makes no sense.
Well, I can find symbology in the pictures in your background there, Jim. I can see pyramid. I can see numbers. There's numbers on the post behind you. It's easy to infer a lot of.
Oh yeah, I mean there is symbology that is popularized by a number of people, and then it gets taken by the general public, and people start using it everywhere as things fall in and out of fashion. So yeah, that symbology doesn't necessarily mean anything. But going back to this letter, so we had three people. We have Pope. He's not really interesting in terms of him saying anything about aliens. And then you said you had a half human, half alien hybrid. Has there been a DNA swab taken? How do you know he's a half alien, half human?
This
or she,
is
whichever.
Just confirmed from all of the proof that they provide on their website.
All of the proof okay. I can create a website that can prove almost anything in just a couple of hours if I really want to. And
remember the Blair Witch Project? And they created a website and created a whole disappearing hikers and everything.
Exactly. I mean, just because it's on a website doesn't mean it's real. And just because they're producing quotes on there from supposed scientific papers, unless you go and track those papers down, I don't know that you can trust any of it. So what does the website offer as evidence other than itself?
It provides a complete history of quite literally everything, not what has been pushed to the public.
So that's nice. How do you know any of it's real? How do you know any of it's true?
Because I've seen what they have shown on there happen in front of me.
For example?
Having alien contact.
You've had alien... Okay, so what was that like?
Well, first you need to be able to accept them to such a degree that you are capable of loving them with a parent's love. The reason they don't show themselves is because they're afraid.
In order to believe in order to see them, you have to believe in them first.
Yes.
Okay.
There seems to be a problem with your logic there. Because the time to believe something is when you have sufficient good evidence to do so and not before. And if you start believing in things that you don't have sufficient good evidence for, then you can believe in things that don't exist. And given the power of the mind, that you can believe in, you can make yourself believe you've had encounters and conversations that you haven't had. This is not anything new to science. So do you have any other evidence other than your own personal experience that these things are real?
I don't have a good camera, but there was only 2 times where I caught footage of the ships, which appear as balls of energy when you zoom in on them. And they look like those glass electric balls that you put your hand on, and the electricity is shooting out constantly.
Okay.
She's talking about an electrode.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of the name of it.
Yeah.
They're kind of cool.
So that's, you're seeing that in images, the pictures that you've taken?
Yes.
How would you? Oh, go ahead, Jim.
No, go ahead.
How would you differentiate something like that? Because an electrode looks very much like lightning. So how would you differentiate what you're seeing from just regular lightning?
Well, these show up as quote unquote stars, but when you fully acknowledge and embrace them and ask them questions, they will respond to you accordingly by answering yes or no questions, typically by moving side to side. And so that they don't shake up the ship, they go in a circle for yes.
Okay, so do you have any video evidence of them doing this to your questions? Or is your video evidence...
I only have video of them just being stationary.
Okay.
I just ordered a new phone for this purpose. It should be here in a few days.
Right. So how did you, what you're describing sounds like to me ball lightning, which is a fairly well-known and understood weather phenomenon. So the fact that they're doing some sort of response sounds interesting, but you're going to need something a little bit more than just the video evidence as well. Although that's a good start. But again, there are ways to fake that you could be accused of. So what is your plan to head off critics like myself and skeptics like myself to say that it's you moving the camera and not them, or some other trickery that may be going on in there? I mean, there's a number of ways we could fake this, right?
Well,
it could be like an ideomotor
effect.
Yeah.
I understand why you're doubting it. I don't blame you. And the reason, I'm ordering, like I said, I'm ordering a phone so that I can be able to record this. And what differentiates these from regular stars is the fact that they are capable of, from when I have talked to them, they will run entire laps around my entire house. They will clearly move across the sky. They don't move a little. They move very clearly and silently.
Are you in an urban area or are you in a more rural area?
I actually am directly next to an airport.
Well, I mean, that brings up all sorts of interesting things because you should have a number of people who've seen these as well, possibly showing up on radar. You should have pilots reporting this. And so if you tell me, you could go on online and get the ATC audio for, I don't know how far back they go, but they're online records of ATC audio talking to pilots. So if you tell me what airport you're at, I can go and what days this happened, I can go find out very quickly if anybody was reporting anything like what you saw. And I'm pretty willing to bet that I'm not going to, right?
And they maybe have cameras too, because I know a lot of the airports will have cameras facing, every which way to help document things coming in and out of the airport. So,
yeah, I mean, the surveillance is
I'm sorry.
Yeah. The surveillance on those things is impressive. On an airport is fairly impressive, but you have eyewitnesses and you have people looking out for things flying. So what airport are you near? Because we can, I mean, I'm not going to do it now online because it would take too long, but you could pull those audio tracks for the times that you saw them and see if anybody else was reporting the same thing.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, every time that I'm speaking to them directly and making them interact, they always send out planes to investigate. And when the planes fly behind them, you can clearly see that whatever this ball of energy is in front of the plane, as in it's low in the atmosphere.
So yeah, if there's planes flying in to investigate this and they're near an airport, there would definitely be audio records of that.
Oh yeah, ATC is talking to whoever's up there flying around there, and it's probably Air Force fighter craft. So the Air Force will also have records of any of that. Yeah. It would not be hard to ask the Air Force whether they've been flying F-15s or 16s, which would be the two most likely aircraft. If you're near a naval post, it might be 14s or F-8. I mean, everything that you're talking about is you can get the documentation for fairly easily. Like I said, the ATC audio is online. And there are a number of YouTube channels who, will post some of the more interesting ATC chatter, whether it's an incident in the air or just something funny that happens. So you should be able to go and find all that evidence.
Yeah. I think it was important to mention this, that I believe it was 5 days ago when I was seeing what I refer to as the mothership. They sent out 3 military black triangles, and they have like a really bright green light going across the entire bottom. And then there's like 3 red lights on the top of it, but they're like really pointy and pure black. I don't know what to call them.
They don't sound like any aircraft in the Air Force inventory I'm aware of. When people say triangular, one of the things that comes to mind is of course the B-2, quite possibly an F-117. The F-16s got wings that could be described as triangular, but not that. The lighting scheme that you're describing makes absolutely no sense whatsoever for a blacked out military aircraft. So how do you know they're U.S. Air Force at all?
I don't.
Okay.
Like I just said, I don't know what to call them.
Okay.
And I don't think that it was our Air Force now, just because they were dead silent.
Well, so the B-1B is actually pretty silent until it gets far enough past you that the sound catches up. I know that from personal experience, from watching a B-1 during the B-1 when the B-1 is being bedded down at Dyess Air Force Base. My dad was stationed there, and I was a lifeguard at the pool and was standing outside. And the B-1B sounded completely silent until we felt it. The low rumble is well after it had passed. The F-15s and 16s flying fast enough can also appear to be that if they're too far away. So I don't know that silent necessarily means anything,
well,
depending on how far away they were. But again, if you're near an airport and things are flying around, someone is going to notice, because you've got, depending on your airport, pilots in the air looking to not collide with other things in the air. So you should definitely be getting some reports from that. And so the fact is, whenever somebody starts reporting these things, we don't see a lot of ATC traffic. We don't hear a lot of pilots describing stuff in busier areas like anything you're describing. Because like I said, there are ATC channels who publishes stuff as their content of incidents happening in the air, everything from engines catching fire to unruly passengers to funny exchanges between the controller and a pilot. So somebody would have caught it, put it on there, and it would have made it somewhere, and it just hasn't happened yet. So, I tend to be fairly skeptical, just because airports are really well monitored for things that are flying.
And the thing is with that, wherever I personally travel, whether it's during the day or night, these ships that I look at and speak to follow me constantly. And with them, the same drones that come from the airport follow with them.
This is not to get too personal, but have you had your like the vision checks? Because if you're hitting lots of bright lights in your vision when it's dark out, there may be something to that. And again, not to get too personal with you, but you're saying like this follows you like when you're going to the grocery store, or are you saying it follows you if you travel, like you go stay at the beach for a couple of weeks and you start seeing them there? Is that?
Well, they're always directly hovering over where I am at any given time. And the quote unquote stars that they cloak themselves as, usually until they don't, show up as different shapes of triangles with very specific shapes to them. And the UFO that did uncloak itself to me is the same exact UFO that is shown in a cave painting that I have.
This is all, very interesting claims that we have here. Unfortunately, with so many different situations that we would expect to see more evidence from, it's really hard to accept that this is something that's happening in the physical world. At least I'm not claiming that you're not experiencing this. I'm just not sure that if someone was sitting there with you, that they would be experiencing this it the same way that you were. But the idea that this is happening near an airport where there's, like what Jim went over, so much surveillance, so much communication, because they have to. There's thousands of pounds of steel flying around in the sky. They have to be vigilant. So I'm just not sure that I find these sightings compelling. But I do appreciate you calling in and sharing them.
With the planes that do go and view them, I've literally seen their energies bounce out of the way as the planes try to fly into them, it looks like. And like I said 4 or 5 nights ago, with these mystery black triangles that were silent, they couldn't have been more than 200 feet above the tallest trees, which are only 60 feet here.
Okay, well, we can leave that as the last word on this, unless Jim had anything else he wanted to say about the topic. I think we might have. You're muted, Jim.
What is going on?
There you go.
Okay.
You're back.
Yeah. I don't have anything else to add.
All right. Well, thank you, A Radio. We are going to move on to our next caller. You have a pleasant evening.